Hello everyone, this will be a new chapter of Field Trips Always End Terribly, written by Itslivybear on AO3. This will be chapter 16. Oops, can you all forget I said that? Summary: work studies get worse, better, and then worse again. Izuku was nervous in his hero costume, even with Uraraka and Mirio walking with him to the agency. Today, they were going to be patrolling, each of the first years being broken up with the older sidekicks, Pinpoint with Lemillion and Uravity with Bubble Girl, each partnership with the most compatible quirks in a combat and support-ish in kind. He was even more nervous when they were actually on the streets, briefed on the current case and told to avoid any people in plague masks at all costs, specifically the leader. But, as Sir Night Eye said, the chances of him showing up to the patrol area was slim, so they would just be doing regular patrols. Hey, Mirio grinned. Loosen up. The crowd's not bothering you, is it? He shook his head. No, I've figured out how to get the least amount of information possible, and my range is at 10 meters right now. It's not bad, I'm just. He sighed. I wasn't here for the internships the first go around, so I feel like I'm really behind in experience and I don't want to mess up. Mirio chuckled. Not to worry. This is just a pretty basic patrol. We don't even have a lot of crimes in this area, but I suppose if you're planning on going underground, you won't do this as much, huh? Izuku nodded. Yeah, not really. I know most daylight heroes patrol in areas to deter crimes, but underground heroes go looking for it in high crime areas, right? Right? See, you already know a lot. Izuku was suddenly hit with a wave of fear from his left, and he whirled around, catching the small girl that was running from the alleyway. Mirio stopped walking, glancing back to see his partner holding a little girl who looked on the verge of tears. She was so afraid, and he immediately rushed back. Hey there, Izuku murmured. What's your name? He didn't ask if she was all right. He knew she wasn't. As if on instinct, he had searched her, reading her state, and he was shaking with how bad it was. She was in so much pain, and she was so afraid. Eri? Well, Eri, I'm Pinpoint, and this is Lemillion. We're heroes. She blinked up at the blond, smiling boy and then back at Izuku, whose expression was much more subdued, and nodded, almost confused, but fear dying down a little bit. Mirio, he murmured. She's hurt. I don't know how she's still running, but she's in bad shape. Ah, you found my daughter. All three people tensed, and Izuku kept his eyes trained on Eri after a quick glance at the bird mask. He heard Mirio suck in a breath and hiss before putting a smile back on his face. Izuku continued to look into Eri's red eyes, seeing the fear and return in full force as he held her, avoiding her most painful injuries. Ah, hello, sir. Your daughter, you say? Yes, she was throwing a temper tantrum and ran away. Time to come home, Eri. Izuku extended Surge, tagging the man as Eri started to shake. Mirio leaned down. Looks like she's a little shy, but we'll give her in a moment. Pinpoint, he breathed. We have to let her go, or we all die. Eri, he muttered, heartbreaking at the blatant fear in her eyes. I can always find you, wherever you are, okay? I'll always know where you are. She nodded, and he slowly loosened his grip. She stumbled backwards, looking back at them again. Come along, Eri. At the cold, almost bored voice that masked a hidden anger, she ran in the man's direction, and he grabbed her hand with his gloved one. Izuku's eyes never left her back until they couldn't see them anymore. When he collapsed to the ground, eyes tearing up as he wrapped his arms around himself. Oh God, she was so hurt. That was someone in the Shia Saikai, wasn't it? Mario helped him up, already ringing Night Eye. No, that was Overhaul. Izuku tensed and searched for where they both were, still moving away from them. That was Overhaul? Did you not notice? No, I saw the mask but just focused on Eri. Sir, yes, we just had an encounter with Overhaul. Izuku stopped listening, focusing solely on Eri. Since she was farther away than before, he didn't feel anything as strong, but he did feel one thing that made his heart sink even more than the fear: resignation. He numbly traveled back to the agency and let himself be fussed over by Uraraka for encountering the big bad, but was drawn in when he heard her name from Mirio. Said her name was Eri. He claimed she was his daughter. They weren't related. Night Eye raised an eyebrow. And what led you to that conclusion? He's germophobic. Can't imagine he'd be intimate with anyone long enough to have a child. He looked up. He found the alley filthy, skin crawling, even though he was wearing gloves and a plague mask, and it was rather clean for an alleyway. Also, if someone can abuse their own child that much, then they don't deserve to be called a parent, regardless of blood relations. Uraraka looked startled, then sick. Abuse? Mirio senpai, you said she was injured, but. Izuku shook his head. I said she was injured. She was in so much pain, I'm surprised she managed to run as fast as she did, or for as long as she did, based on the state of her feet. He racked his brain, replaying the information he had gotten and then immediately memorized. Can I have a piece of paper? Bubble Girl wordlessly passed one over with a pen and he sketched out the rough shape of a person. Specific and detrimental wounds to the point of debilitation were in her forearms and calves, with her upper arms and thighs having far fewer. Her feet had the more recent injuries from running barefoot, and she had a headache. However, her arms and legs should have been more scar tissue than arm, with the obvious frequent borderline torture. He set the pen down, shaking, looking at the scribbled in areas that denoted her pain, and came to a very horrible conclusion. You said Chisaki's quirk is overhaul, yes? It lets him deconstruct and reconstruct things? No one was smiling. Are you saying? Uraraka swallowed, looking pale. Are you saying he? Yeah. Night Eye examined the paper, frowning. Did you tag her? I tagged them both. They all jumped, looking at him in worry, and he hurried to explain. Tagging doesn't require actually touching people, it just makes it easier and faster. Mirio and Uraraka breathed a sigh of relief. Yeah, no way was Izuku going to get in touching range of Overhaul, or frankly any criminals if he could help it. Not if you paid him real money. The only reason he should be that close to someone that dangerous is if they were A. Friends, or B. He had several knives. Preferably both, actually. Night Eye pushed up his glasses. That will likely be incredibly useful in locating Overhaul. Good work, Pinpoint. He blinked, startled at the praise, and Mirio shot him a grin. For now, the hero continued, you should all go home for the day. I have a few more leads we will be looking into, but I will contact you again when it's time. He swept upstairs, taking the paper of Aries' injuries with him, and the three students waved goodbye to Bubble Girl and Centipeter before going to change out of their hero costumes. Izuku was still blank, feeling like he was in a fog, when they got on the train and Uraraka nudged him. Are you doing okay? He shook his head. How could he be? He had a hurt girl in his grasp, and he had let her go over something as small as the fear of death. No, he thought. Mirio and Eri would also have died, even if Overhaul would put her back together again for whatever sick purpose he had for her. But still, could he have done something? He would always know where Overhaul was, so he probably could have dodged if he had come at him. His training wasn't for nothing, and Mirio would have been able to permeate if he tried to touch him, so maybe... No, there was no use looking at what ifs. He knew that by now. Uraraka just put an arm around him, and they rode back to UA in silence. As they went through the gates, Mirio stopped, and the two underclassmen looked back at him. He was angry, looking at the ground. "We're going to rescue her. We will." Uraraka nodded, eyes set in steel. "Of course! That's what being a hero is about. Saving people. Hunting things." They blinked at the upperclassman, and he blinked back before breaking out in a grin. "Sorry, instinct. A little before your time, huh? Anyway, we'll save Eri, no matter what." Izuku tried to smile. They would. They had to. Hitoshi flopped next to him underneath the tree, opening his bento on the way down. "So, you've been working hard. You didn't even notice when we passed by the cafeteria on the way back from that exercise." Izuku nodded, eating a bit of rice. "Yeah, not sure if Aizawa and you will be working with Night Eye, but the case... it's not nice." "Coming from you, worrying. On a scale of small robbery to Kamino, how bad is it?" He grimaced. "Honestly, my kidnapping doesn't look as bad as this. Maybe if Tomura had gotten to do what he wanted to Kachan, it might get bad, but this is like..." He trailed off, swallowing over the lump in his throat. "It's bad." He felt a buzz in his right pocket, the one that kept the burner phone, and he let Uraraka take over the conversation, drawing in both Ida and Todoroki, but Hitoshi merely looked at him with worry. He ignored the concern in favor of reading whatever was so urgent that Tomura sent him in the middle of the day. "Hey, if you see a bird guy, like with a plague mask, please steer clear. But also get him arrested or killed, whichever is easier." "Bird mask? Overhaul?" "Izu, what the fuck? What are they teaching you in school?" "No, I ran into him the other day." "You ran into the Yakuza the other day? What the fuck?" "Yeah, I was on patrol for my work study, but why do you know him?" "Motherfucker killed Magne." "Wait, what?" "Would have gotten Compress, Stay Not, and stopped that shit. We're all pissed. Big Sis Mag was one of the better of us, and now she's fucking dead because Bird Bitch was mad we didn't grovel at his fucking feet." Izuku took a deep breath, steeling his features so no one around him would catch on. "Okay, so I hated his ass before, but now I might actually kill him." "Are you guys seriously going after him? Because if so, good luck. He's got these quark erasing bullets. Not permanent, but he's probably working on it." "He has a little girl." "Like a kid? What the fuck?" "Yeah, pretty sure she's being abused. I have them marked, but like, I've never wanted to kill someone more." "Ah, baby's all grown up. Baby's first murder. JK, don't kill someone. That's bad. You wouldn't like it." "Okay, but it's Overhaul."
"Yeah, but like, murder."
Can't believe Shigaraki Tomura is saying no to murder. This seems out of character."
"Fuck off. No murder for you. You're a baby. I can murder anyone I want."
"Except civilians."
"Fuck. Ugh, fine. Anyway, we're gonna fuck him up. I'll keep you posted."
Izuku took a deep breath, slipping his phone back into his pocket. Magne was dead. Sure, he didn't know her that well, having only really been around her for a week, and she had definitely committed murder at least twice, but based on conversations with Tomura, she really was the big sister of the League, and Emiko, at least, really liked her a lot. That could have been him. Plus, the idea of quirk erasing bullets was terrifying, even if they were only temporary right now. Izuku hadn't even had a quirk for long, but he knew the degree to which people relied on them. That's probably what killed Magna, actually. If you suddenly lost your weapon, you'd be thrown off completely, giving your opponent time to go in for the killing blow. Disarming someone was an excellent tactic to give you a moment of surprise. Take something like a quirk, which for some people was more akin to an extra limb than a weapon, and it would be child's play. It's part of what made Sensei so terrifying. He looked back up at his friend and smiled, pretending nothing was wrong. There was no way he was going to be able to give this information to Sir, not without telling the heroes where he had gotten it. That was definitely not going to happen, with how well that'd go over. So for now, he'd keep it to himself and hope nothing came of it. After all, it was only temporary. It was fine. Seeing Kirishima and Shoji distraught about Amajiki, their upperclassmen, on the work study working with Fadgum, losing his quirk, made Izuku queasy. Maybe if they had known, Kirishima could have deflected the other bullet as well, and the shy third year would still have his quirk. Izuku just hoped it was still the experimental type and his quirk would come back. Seeing Red Riot's hero debut and Tentacle's recognition for the help in evacuating the civilians and subduing the criminals and drug dealers, assisting Fatgum, made him feel a little better, but he resolved to do everything he could from now on. He locked himself in his room, telling his friends he was going to bed early, and whipped out a fresh notebook, his laptop, and a burner phone. Tell me everything you have on the Shihasakai. He tossed the filled notebook on Sir Night-Eye's desk, and the hero looked up with a raised eyebrow, taking it. What is this? Everything I could find on the Shihasakai, including members, quirks, and a few schedules and general locations. Night-Eye thumbed through the notebook slowly, never showing any emotion beyond his constant light frown. And how did you get this information? Most of this is not public knowledge. He forced himself to remain strong and looked the pro-hero in the eyes. I told you I wanted to learn more about information gathering. I didn't come in with nothing. Night-Eye considered for a moment before nodding, handing it back. Show this to Centipeter, and we'll see what else you can find. Izuku turned on his heel, feeling a drop of sweat trickle down his neck before he shut the door behind him, letting out a sigh and unclenching his jaw. Some of the information he had found on forums and internet digging, of course, but Tomura had provided most of it, and he really didn't want to have to lie to his boss. He stood up straight, eyes set. He was here to learn, and by God, he was going to learn. He would be the best at gathering and distributing information. The work studies kids all chattered excitedly on the train, having figured out they were all going to the same place. Tokoyami was with Hawks, so he wasn't here, but Sue and Kaminari, with Hado and Ryukyu, were here, as were Kirishima and Shoji, with Amajiki and Fatgum, on top of the Night-Eye kids. All 9 of them were headed to the Night-Eye agency. Bubble Girl led them to a meeting room where several pro heroes were already gathered, including Aizawa and Hitoshi. Izuku blinked at him and waved. Hitoshi waved back, looking dead on his feet. Oi, girl! Uraraka lit up, turning to face a small man. Gran! How are you, old man? He scowled and went back to smack her with his cane. Better than you're gonna be after that sass. So you ended up with Night-Eye after all, eh? She snorted. Something about my old mentor losing his teaching license? I don't know. And who exactly cost me that license, brat? She snickered and sat down, and the old man merely rolled his eyes and picked his own seat. They divided themselves by agency, and soon everyone was there. Night Eye and Centipede in front of the room, with Bubble Girl, but the laptop controlling the projector. Thank you all for coming, Night Eye started. This is the briefing for the Shihasakai case. Centipede. The Centipede man took over, detailing some things Izuku already knew, before one hero, Rocklock, raised a complaint. What are these kids doing here? Isn't this a bit above their pay grade? Fatgum raised in their defense first. These two helped us get vital intelligence. We were able to get one of the quirky raising bullets back intact. Indeed, Centipede chittered, which allowed us to analyze the contents of the bullet, and we found human cells. The three from Night Eye from the three from Night Eye tensed, and Mirio and Uraraka looked at Izuku, who just felt numb, and then felt angry. That bastard! He spit. If we had moved before he showed up, we could have gotten her out. And, Night Eye pressed, he would have moved and caught wind of our operation. Izuku's head shot up, eyes blazing. So leaving a little girl and abused and now we find out experimented on little girl with that monster was the best course of action? Somehow I don't think that's in line with the hero principles. Aizawa raised an eyebrow, remembering another mission involving a child and a similar claim, and stared Night Eye down. This should be good. With the information we had, it was the best course of action. You couldn't have known she was being experimented on. Actually, I could. Remember that handy paper I made with you with her injuries? I told you she was being overhauled, and all you were concerned about was whether I had tagged her. Centipede tried to wrangle things back. Which brings us to our current objective, finding which of the hideouts they are currently located in. We have about a dozen we will need you all to gather information on, some in each of your provinces. That won't be necessary. The entire table turned to Izuku, eyes dark. Get me a map. He took out a compass and marker from his belt pouch as Bubber Girl handed him a map, one that included all the locations in the Night Eye agency. They watched in silence as he oriented the compass and the map in tandem, making both face north, and then he uncapped the marker, narrowing his eyes to find his starting location, before breathing deep and feeling for Eri. There. He drew a line, starting at the agency until it had passed all the locations. He looked at the projection for reference, and then drew a broad circle around the area of the line that they were located in. There. Check anything around there. Don't bother with the others. That's where she is. An overhaul? He glared at Night Eye. Yes, he spat. And overhaul. He moves a bit more than she does, you understand. Night Eye seemed unfazed, Bubble Girl gently taking the map as he put the marker and compass away and sitting back in his seat, anger turning back to sadness. In the brief time he had searched her out, he could faintly feel her pain, even with how far away she was. He settled his head on the table, feeling drained. He tuned out the rest of the meeting, knowing a lot of the information of the Yakuza since he helped compile most of it, until something had him sitting up straight. The League has had contact with Overhaul. He knew that. He already did. Tomura had already told him, but he didn't miss the glances his classmates sent him at the mention of his kidnappers. Aizawa narrowed his eyes. If the League is really working with Overhaul, we need to pull the UA students. They're too closely tied to them. Izuku almost shut up, but Kaminari beat him to it. No way, Sensei. There's a little girl in trouble and you think the League is enough to scare us off? No, we beat them once, and their big bad is gone now. You can't pull us from our work studies. He raised an eyebrow. I absolutely can. The League is already too invested in your class, and I don't need any more kidnapped students. Izuku sighed. They aren't going to be kidnapping anyone, even if they were working with Overhaul, which they're not. Everyone paused, and Izuku froze. Shit. Where did you get this information? Night Eye demanded. Uh, it was just a guess. I don't know. Why would I know? Shit. Aizawa frowned. That didn't sound like a guess, Midoriya. I know you've been gathering information, Night Eye scowled, but I specifically told you to avoid the League. You wouldn't have any information without the League. Everyone froze, and he paled. Shit. Izuku, Hitoshi murmured. What does that mean? Izuku swallowed, eyes darting around from where he was standing. He didn't even know when he'd stood. I think this is between me and my intern. Midoriya, please step outside with me. Oh no, Aizawa stood. He's my student. I'm here for this. His classmates exchanged glances as Izuku numbly walked outside, and then all got up to follow. Uraraka glaring and Hitoshi raising an eyebrow when Aizawa tried to keep them in the meeting room. Izuku, Hitoshi intoned. What did you mean? He sat shakily in a chair, not looking at any of them. I'm not gonna tell you. Night Eye scoffed. If you've had If you've had contact with the League, we should be made aware so we can drop you from this case and all future ones. What? Uraraka was instantly on her feet. I told you he isn't a fucking villain. Stop bringing it up. Night Eye merely rolled his eyes. After all that time with this symbol of evil and getting a quirk out of it, not a scratch on him otherwise. Please, I'm not stupid. Wait a minute, Aizawa growled. Did you accept him for work study so you could keep an eye on him? I thought you gave up your stupid vendetta when we brought All for One down, and that's the only reason I let him even consider coming here. Of course I did. No one can spend that long with villains and not come out unchanged. Clearly, I was right. None of you knew he was still communicating with them either, despite being his friends and teacher. We don't know that. Kirishima clenched his fist. Midobro has no reason to talk to his kidnappers, right, Mido? He was silent. Besides, Shoji muttered, he's never really left campus until the work studies started happening, and he's constantly been with people during those times. How would he even contact them? A burner phone. Izuku looked up at Hitoshi, who was staring. It wasn't yours. The one at lunch the other day. Izuku just looked at him. Aizawa's gaze sharpened. A burner phone? Kero, Tsu said, finger to her chin. It did seem rather odd, and you tensed a bit, but I figured if it was important, you'd tell us. Midoriya, do you have the phone on you? He stared at the floor. Aizawa sighed. All right, everyone out. Just me and Midoriya. Absolutely not, Night Eye snapped. Both Uraraka and Hitoshi set their stances, not even considering moving, but Tsu and Shoji each gathered their work-study buddies and led them back to the meeting room, casting glances back at the group of four. Aizawa looked at the two remaining students with a raised eyebrow. I'm not going to leave and let Midori be vilified by Night Eye again. Hitoshi shrugged. He's my best friend and I accidentally snitched, so yeah, I'm staying. Night Eye ignored them and rounded on Izuku, who was still staring at the floor. How long have you been in contact with the League? Obviously, since you've started the work study, since you apparently got your information from them. He frowned, looking up at his boss. Not all of it. Some of it really was just from the internet. Night Eye rolled his eyes. Of course, my mistake. Yes, Aizawa said sharply. It is. Stop assuming things. Midoriya? His voice was much softer. Are they threatening you in any way? What? No, I wasn't even asking for information until I found out he knew Overhaul. We just talked. So you have been in contact with Shigaraki, I assume? He glared at Night Eye. Yes, I'm talking to Tomura. Whoop-de-doo, you guessed it. Big leap there. Aizawa crouched down, face serious but not angry. Midoriya, how did you get the phone? He grimaced and muttered, Himiko. Himiko? As in Himiko Toga. He nodded. Night Eye scoffed. So you have been in contact with not one member of the League, but two. Aizawa ignored him. And where did you meet Himiko? The provisional licensing exam. The room paused and both Hitoshi and Uraraka looked shocked. What? When? Hitoshi looks extremely confused. Must have been during the split, but you found us pretty fast. She was Kami, that girl from Shiketsu? Aizawa tensed. That explains Dad then. I'm glad she was still alive when we found her. Izuku looked up, alarmed. What? No, they have a no civilian policy now. She would have been fine. Night Eye snorted. Ah, tell you that, did they? I don't think a single villain has ever actually stuck to that policy, Midoriya. Even if you aren't a villain, you're a fool. Uraka growled, turning to face their boss. Oh my god, stop! Stop calling him a villain just for getting kidnapped and talking to his friend! His friend, who is a villain. She stalled for a moment, but shook her head. But he's still his friend. I can't fault him for wanting to talk to him. Hitoshi shrugged. Honestly, I can't either. From what Izuku's told me, the guy was pretty nice to him. Aizawa held out his hand to stop them. Midoriya, you said they've been giving you information that they wouldn't work with Overhaul? He killed Magne, and if Stain hadn't been there, he probably would have gotten Mr. Compress too. They're planning on fucking him up. Their words. His teacher nodded. Midoriya, do you have the phone on you now? Izuku hesitated. On one hand, they might not give it back. On the other, it wasn't traceable, and the League had been giving them information, even if they didn't know it. He looked up at his teacher, searching his eyes for anger, but found nothing. He nodded, took it out of his pouch, and handed it over. And there we go. So this was chapter 16 of Field Trips Always End Terribly. As always, I encourage everyone to go leave kudos and comments on the original fic. Um, just please ignore me absolutely dying in the middle of reading this. Honestly, I don't know what happened there. But anyway, also sorry for the late update. I think it's been almost like a week since I've posted, but life is a bitch, and I'm getting ready to go back to school, so I'm very busy. So updates might be a bit slower, but I'll still try to post at least once a week. Um, at least every day off or so. My next day off is this Sunday, so I should be able to record a few chapters then. Well, anyways, having said that, I hope everyone has a good day. I will see you all in the next chapter.